Blackwood Mansion, nestled on the shores of Lake Michigan in Chicago, was today the epicenter of a grand celebration. It was the wedding of Olivia Blackwood and Liam Hamilton. Dignitaries from the city's elite society were present, their attire exuding an air of opulence. Liam, the only son of Arthur Hamilton, was about to embark on a new chapter of his life. Yet, even amidst this joyous occasion, a subtle unease gnawed at him. His father, Arthur Hamilton, who had kept his true identity hidden until now, had arrived at the event in his most ordinary attire. Arthur Hamilton, a man in his 70s, walked slowly towards the wedding altar. He wore an old yet clean gray suit. The marks of age were evident on his face, but his eyes held a deep serenity and a sharp glint of intelligence. He stood quietly in a corner, as if he were not a part of this lavish affair, but merely an ordinary spectator. His presence seemed an incongruous sight in this glittering environment. Olivia Blackwood, Liam's fiancée, was adorned in a dazzling designer gown. Her beauty was undeniable, but her face also bore an arrogance that overshadowed her charm. Her parents, Mr. and Mrs. Blackwood, were immensely proud of their family heritage and social standing. They considered themselves among Chicago's most influential families. Olivia's gaze fell upon Arthur Hamilton. Her brows furrowed. She whispered something to her mother. Mrs. Blackwood looked at Arthur and offered a disdainful smile. She gestured to her husband. Mr. Blackwood, known as a successful real estate mogul, approached Arthur. A forced smile played on his lips. "Ah, Mr. Hamilton, you've come." He spoke as if Arthur's presence was unexpected and unwelcome. Arthur calmly replied, "Yes, it's my son's wedding, why wouldn't I?" His voice held a natural firmness that somewhat diminished Mr. Blackwood's artificial smile. Olivia came closer and said, "Dad, who is this? Some distant relative of Liam's, I presume." Her words carried clear disdain and mockery. Liam, who had been observing everything from a distance, quickly stepped forward. His face had turned red. "Olivia, this is my father." His voice was filled with clear annoyance and frustration. Olivia's eyes widened. "Your father? But—" She gestured towards Arthur's attire. "I thought he might be—" She couldn't finish her sentence, but her implication was clear. Arthur was not aristocratic enough for this society. Mrs. Blackwood chuckled. "Oh dear, don't you know? Mr. Hamilton leads a very simple life. He supposedly has a small shipping business around Lake Michigan." Her words carried a mocking tone that was clearly audible to everyone. Mr. Blackwood added, Yes, I've heard, but he doesn't have much contact with our family. We are a bit different, you see." He smiled at Arthur as if pitying him, mocking his social standing. Liam's face flushed with shame. He burned inside, watching his father being humiliated. "Dad, let's go inside," he said, pulling Arthur's hand, trying to remove him from the uncomfortable situation. But Arthur didn't move. He looked calmly at Olivia. His eyes held a deep gaze. "My attire may not be suitable for your aristocracy, my dear, but a person's worth cannot be judged by their clothes. True wealth lies in the heart, not in a bank account." His voice held an unwavering resolve that silenced Olivia's arrogance, if only for a moment. Olivia quickly composed herself and said, Of course, but one should wear appropriate attire for such events, shouldn't they? What will people think? We have a social standing to maintain." Mrs. Blackwood nodded in agreement. "You're right, dear. It's our responsibility to uphold our honor." Arthur said nothing more. He looked at Liam and smiled faintly. That smile held a deep sorrow, but even more, an indomitable determination. He slowly walked out of the mansion, leaving behind the disdain of the Blackwood family and Liam's helpless gaze. Liam had wanted to stop his father, but Olivia's family had surrounded him. He could only watch his father leave from a distance. He felt that not only his father had been humiliated today, but he too had been disgraced. The sting of this humiliation created a deep wound in his heart. He did not know that this insult would give birth to a new story, the story of an invisible emperor's retribution of fate. A new storm was about to brew in Chicago's elite society. a storm no one had foreseen. After the wedding, when Liam returned to his Chicago apartment, his mind was agitated. The humiliation inflicted upon his father throughout the day gnawed at him. He knew his father was an honest and hardworking man, but he himself was not very aware of his true identity. Arthur Hamilton had always shunned publicity, busy with his own work. Liam went to his father's house and saw Arthur calmly sitting in his library, looking at an old map. There was no sign of anger or sadness on his face. As if nothing had happened, Liam sat beside his father. "Dad, what happened today? I am deeply ashamed." His voice trembled. Arthur looked up from the map at Liam. His eyes held a deep affection. "There's nothing to be ashamed of, son. People believe what they see. And I wanted you to find your own path, not to live in the shadow of my identity. But the way they humiliated you..." Liam couldn't say more. Arthur smiled faintly. Humiliation? Yes, perhaps. But sometimes, humiliation shows the way to new paths. He remained silent for a moment, then took a deep breath and said, "Liam, the time has come to tell you some truths." Liam looked at his father in surprise. Arthur stood up and opened a secret drawer. From it, he took out some papers. "I run a shipping business around Lake Michigan. But you might not know that this business is not limited to Lake Michigan. It's a vast empire called Hamilton Global Enterprise." Liam was stunned with disbelief. "An empire?" "Yes, an empire." Arthur handed a file to Liam. "Look at this file." Liam opened the file and saw various international company names, share details, bank statements, a vast financial picture. "What are these, Dad?" "These are part of my empire. Hamilton Global Enterprise doesn't just transport goods. It has invested in various industries worldwide: real estate, textiles, agriculture, technology, even space research. There's no sector where Hamilton Global Enterprise hasn't invested. The Blackwood family, whom they are so proud of, their Blackwood real estate, is just a small part of my company." Arthur's voice held a calm firmness. Liam couldn't believe it. His father, whom he knew as an ordinary businessman, was such a big industrialist. "But why, Dad? Why did you keep all this a secret for so long?" "I wanted you to find true love, Liam. A life partner who would value you as a person, not for your wealth or prestige. I wanted you to achieve something on your own merit, without relying on my identity." Arthur sighed. "What Olivia and her family did disappointed me. They only saw money and social status. They didn't understand human worth." Anger and frustration brewed in Liam's mind. "So what happens now, Dad?" Arthur looked Liam in the eye. "Now we will show them what human worth is. We will show them what the consequences of arrogance and greed can be." His voice held a cold tone of retribution. "You want revenge?" Liam was a little hesitant. "Not revenge, son. Justice," Arthur said. "I don't want to destroy them. I want them to realize their mistakes. I want them to know what true wealth is." Arthur formulated a well-thought-out plan. He explained to Liam that this plan was not just about dismantling the Blackwood family's financial empire, but also about destroying their social standing and crushing their arrogance. Liam was initially hesitant, but remembering the humiliation inflicted upon his father, he agreed. "We will find every weakness of theirs, Liam. We will expose every lie, every deception to the public," Arthur said. "But on this path, you must be by my side." Liam firmly said, "I am with you, Dad." That night was the night of a new beginning. An invisible emperor broke his silence and awoke, not to take revenge for his humiliation, but to establish justice. Liam stood by his father, ready for a new battle, a battle not just of money and power, but of principles and ideals. A new chapter began in the heart of Chicago. Arthur Hamilton and Liam embarked on implementing their plan. Under Arthur's guidance, Liam began to analyze the financial structure of the Blackwood family. The vast network and experienced team of Hamilton Global Enterprise proved invaluable. Every debt, every investment, every business deal of the Blackwood family was meticulously scrutinized. The first step was to acquire all of the Blackwood family's debts. Arthur, through his trusted financial advisors, secretly bought large loans taken by the Blackwood family from various banks and financial institutions in Chicago. The Blackwood family initially didn't even realize that their creditors had changed. They thought it was just a regular financial transaction. But when Arthur's representatives started demanding loan installments, they became alarmed. Mr. Blackwood wanted to meet Arthur. He thought Arthur might have come to help him with his old shipping business. But when he learned that Arthur was now their main creditor, his face turned pale. "Mr. Hamilton, what are you doing?" Mr. Blackwood asked, stunned. Arthur calmly replied, "I am merely protecting my investments, Mr. Blackwood. Your company's financial situation is not very good." Then began the process of taking over business control. The Blackwood family's main business was Blackwood Real Estate. It was their pride and primary source of income. Arthur targeted the supply chain of Blackwood Real Estate through his own real estate companies. He made agreements with their construction material suppliers so that they would supply materials to Blackwood Real Estate at a higher price or stop supplying altogether. At the same time, he contacted their main buyers and offered to supply better quality properties at lower prices. Within a few days, the projects of Blackwood Real Estate began to be disrupted. Work stalled due to lack of construction materials, and on the other hand, buyers started turning away. The company's profits rapidly declined, and its stock price began to fall. Olivia and Mrs. Blackwood, even in this situation, could not let go of their arrogance. They thought it was just a temporary problem. They continued to live lavishly at their social events, as if nothing had happened. But their financial situation was steadily deteriorating. Liam was involved in this entire process. He meticulously observed every step his father took. He saw how his father, without resorting to any violence or illegal means, was cornering a powerful family simply through intelligence and financial power. Liam's respect for his father grew even more. Arthur was not just attacking financially. He was also collecting evidence of various financial irregularities and corruption within the Blackwood family. His intelligence team was uncovering every secret transaction, every illegal deal, and every tax evasion by the Blackwood family. This evidence was extremely powerful, capable of severely damaging the Blackwood family's social standing and legal position. One day, Liam came to his father and said, "Dad, they don't understand what's happening. They are still engrossed in their arrogance." Arthur smiled faintly. "They will understand, Liam. When the ground beneath their feet gives way, they will understand. True power lies not in wealth or prestige, but in honesty and justice." The downfall of the Blackwood family had begun. They still didn't know how powerful and far-reaching the invisible force working against them was. Their arrogance had blinded them, and they couldn't hear the approaching footsteps of their destruction. This was the first blow from the invisible emperor, which shook the very foundation of their empire. The financial noose around the Blackwood family was tightening. Blackwood Real Estate was on the verge of collapse, and the value of their other investments was rapidly diminishing. The luxurious lifestyle they had so proudly maintained was now becoming a heavy burden. Yet, Olivia and her mother, Mrs. Blackwood, refused to acknowledge their impending ruin. Instead, they concocted a desperate and cruel plan to garner sympathy and extort money. Olivia announced that she was pregnant with Liam's child, which was a complete fabrication. To add drama and urgency, Mrs. Blackwood feigned a severe medical crisis, claiming that the stress of their financial woes had caused a life-threatening condition. They hoped to leverage Liam's residual sense of responsibility and public sympathy to secure a significant financial settlement, or even a bailout for their crumbling empire. Mrs. Blackwood was admitted to a prestigious private hospital in Chicago, known for its discretion and high-profile clientele. Olivia, playing the role of a distraught fiancée, appealed to the public for privacy and understanding, subtly implying that Liam was abandoning his pregnant fiancée and ailing mother-in-law. Arthur and Liam, however, were always one step ahead. Arthur had anticipated such a desperate move. His network of informants was vast, and he quickly learned of Olivia's fake pregnancy and Mrs. Blackwood's fabricated illness. This was the perfect opportunity to expose their true character to the world. Arthur, with his immense wealth, took a step that stunned even his closest advisors. He quietly initiated the acquisition of the very hospital where Mrs. Blackwood was admitted. Within days, the hospital, a symbol of elite healthcare, came under the complete control of Hamilton Global Enterprise, a subsidiary of Arthur's empire. Once the acquisition was complete, Arthur wasted no time. He dispatched his most trusted medical team to conduct a thorough, independent examination of Mrs. Blackwood. The results, as expected, confirmed that Mrs. Blackwood was perfectly healthy. Her medical crisis was nothing more than a theatrical performance. Simultaneously, a discreet investigation into Olivia's alleged pregnancy found no evidence of it. Arthur even managed to gather irrefutable evidence of Olivia's infidelity, including DNA evidence that would later prove devastating. With all the evidence in hand, Arthur orchestrated a public revelation. He called a press conference at the newly acquired hospital in Chicago, inviting major news outlets and prominent social commentators. The atmosphere was tense with anticipation. Arthur, alongside Liam, stood before the cameras, his demeanor calm and resolute. "Ladies and gentlemen," Arthur began, his voice clear and steady, "I stand before you today not as a businessman, but as a father seeking justice. The Blackwood family, through their deceit and manipulation, has attempted to exploit my son and garner public sympathy under false pretenses." He then presented medical reports confirming Mrs. Blackwood's perfect health, exposing her fabricated illness. He also revealed the findings regarding Olivia's false pregnancy, carefully avoiding any direct mention of infidelity at this stage, reserving it for the impending legal battle. The news sent shockwaves through the media. The image of the struggling, sympathetic Blackwood family instantly shattered. Olivia and Mrs. Blackwood, watching the press conference from their hospital room, were aghast. Their carefully constructed facade crumbled before their eyes. The public, initially sympathetic, now turned against them, condemning their shameless deception. Their reputation, already tarnished by their financial troubles, was now utterly destroyed. The invisible emperor had struck again, turning their desperate ploy into their most humiliating downfall. The public outcry after Arthur Hamilton's press conference was immense. The Blackwood family, once revered for their wealth and social standing, became objects of ridicule and scorn. Their attempts to sway public opinion had failed miserably, their reputation utterly ruined. The financial ruin that had been slowly creeping up on them now struck with swift force. Legal proceedings commenced rapidly. Arthur Hamilton, through his formidable legal team, filed a lawsuit against the Blackwood family, alleging fraud, defamation, and breach of contract. The case quickly garnered national attention, becoming a sensational trial that captivated both the media and the public. The courtroom in downtown Chicago was packed daily with journalists, curious onlookers, and legal experts. During the trial, Arthur Hamilton himself took the witness stand, his presence commanding and his testimony unwavering. He presented a meticulously compiled dossier of evidence, detailing every financial irregularity, every illicit deal, and every instance of tax evasion by the Blackwood family. The documents, supported by expert testimony from forensic accountants, painted a damning picture of their corrupt business practices. Then came the most anticipated moment, the exposure of Olivia Blackwood's deception. Arthur's legal team presented irrefutable DNA test results. These results unequivocally proved that Olivia's alleged pregnancy was not only false, but that she had been unfaithful to Liam. The DNA evidence showed that the child she claimed to be carrying, and later miscarried, another fabrication, could not have been Liam's. The courtroom gasped as the evidence was displayed on a large screen, leaving no room for doubt. Olivia, who had maintained a facade of innocence throughout the trial, finally broke down. Her carefully constructed lies crumbled under the weight of scientific proof. Mrs. Blackwood, her mother, attempted to intervene, but her protests were dismissed by the judge as irrelevant and disruptive. Mr. Blackwood, once composed and stoic, slumped in his chair, his face pale and defeated. The prosecution also presented evidence of the fraudulent medical crisis orchestrated by Mrs. Blackwood. Testimony from medical staff at the hospital, now under Hamilton Global Enterprise, confirmed that Mrs. Blackwood was perfectly healthy, and her symptoms were entirely fabricated. The judge, visibly disgusted by the extent of the deception, severely reprimanded the Blackwood family. After weeks of intense legal battle, the verdict was announced. The jury found the Blackwood family guilty on all counts. The judge, in his final ruling, ordered the forfeiture of all their assets to cover the damages and legal costs incurred by Arthur Hamilton and to compensate for their fraudulent activities. Blackwood Real Estate, their once proud company, was dissolved, its remnants absorbed by Hamilton Global Enterprise. Their luxurious mansion, their cars, their bank accounts, everything was seized. The Blackwood family was not only financially ruined but also socially ostracized. Their name became synonymous with deceit and arrogance. They lost everything: their company, their reputation, and their place in society. They were left with nothing but the bitter taste of their own hubris. The Invisible Emperor had delivered justice, swiftly and decisively, proving that true power ultimately lies not in superficial wealth, but in integrity and truth. A year had passed since the dramatic downfall of the Blackwood family. The dust had settled, and the echoes of their spectacular ruin had faded into the pages of Chicago's social history. For Liam Hamilton, it had been a year of profound transformation and growth. Freed from the suffocating expectations and toxic influence of the Blackwoods, he had finally found his true purpose. Under the mentorship of his father, Arthur, Liam had launched the Future Vision Initiative, an innovative venture focused on sustainable urban development and community empowerment. It was not about accumulating more wealth, but about creating lasting positive change. The project quickly gained momentum, becoming a beacon of hope in underserved communities across the city. Liam, once a hesitant participant in his father's grand schemes, was now a confident and visionary leader, building his own legacy based on integrity and purpose. His personal life had also blossomed. During the process of converting the former Blackwood mansion, once a symbol of arrogance and deceit, into a state-of-the-art youth shelter, Liam had met Sarah. Sarah was an architect with a passion for social justice, volunteering her expertise to design functional and inspiring spaces for the underprivileged. Her kindness, intelligence, and genuine empathy were a complete antithesis to the superficiality Liam had once known. Their connection was immediate and profound. Sarah saw Liam not as the son of a billionaire, but as a man dedicated to making a difference. She admired his humility and his unwavering commitment to his new cause. Their shared values and dreams quickly led to a deep and meaningful relationship. They were married in a quiet ceremony, surrounded by close friends and family, a far cry from the opulent affair that had once brought so much pain. Arthur Hamilton, observing his son's new life, felt a deep sense of peace and satisfaction. He had achieved what he set out to do. Not just revenge, but justice. He had shown that true wealth is not measured in material possessions, but in character, integrity, and the positive impact one has on the world. He had guided his son towards a path of true fulfillment, where love and purpose thrived. The Blackwood mansion, once a monument to greed, now buzzed with the laughter and dreams of young people. It stood as a powerful testament to transformation, a reminder that new beginnings can emerge even from the ashes of destruction. Liam and Sarah, hand in hand, often visited the shelter, their hearts full of gratitude and hope. The Invisible Emperor, Arthur Hamilton, had ensured that justice was served, and in doing so, had paved the way for a truly new and meaningful beginning for his son.
Liam always politely refused. It was Grandpa's wish, Mom. And I'm saving it for something important, like a down payment on a house. He never mentioned the condo he was already saving for. Knowing they would find a way to criticize that too, the constant badgering took its toll. Liam started avoiding family calls, making excuses to miss gatherings. He felt like a walking ATM, constantly being assessed for how much he could contribute to Chloe's endless needs. Then came the Christmas when he turned 30. He had been looking forward to it, not just for the money, but for the symbolic freedom it represented. He had planned to use a portion of it to finally pay off his condo mortgage, making it truly his own. But the Christmas dinner that year was different. There were no announcements about Chloe's latest venture. Instead, Arthur looked unusually grim. Margaret was quiet, her usual effervescence replaced by a strained silence. After dinner, Arthur called Liam into his study. The room, usually a sanctuary of leather-bound books and legal tomes, felt heavy with unspoken tension. "Liam," Arthur began, his voice devoid of its usual authority, "we have a problem." Liam braced himself. "What is it, Dad?" "It's about your grandparents' trust fund," Arthur said, pushing a thick envelope across the polished mahogany desk. "This arrived today from Mrs. Henderson." Liam opened the envelope. Inside was a letter from Mrs. Henderson, dated a week prior. He started reading, and as he did, a slow, dawning horror spread across his face. The letter explained that upon the death of both George and Susan Miller, there was stipulated that their estate, including the $200,000 trust for their grandchildren, was to be managed by a neutral third-party trustee until the beneficiaries reached the age of 30. The trustee was a regional bank in Iowa. However, the letter went on to say that 2 years after Susan Miller's passing, Arthur Harper, acting as the legal representative for Margaret Miller Harper, had petitioned the court to have the trust dissolved and the funds released early. His argument was that the beneficiaries, Liam and Chloe, were in dire financial need and that the funds were necessary for Chloe's medical expenses and Liam's student loan debt. Liam's blood ran cold. He had never had student loan debt. And Chloe's medical expenses were a blatant lie. He continued reading. The court, based on Arthur's sworn affidavits and fabricated financial documents, had approved the petition. The $200,000 trust fund had been released and, according to the bank statements attached to the letter, had been transferred directly into a joint account held by Arthur and Margaret Harper. Liam looked up, his eyes burning into his father's. "You stole it," he whispered, the words catching in his throat. "You stole my inheritance. You lied to the court. You forged documents." Arthur shifted uncomfortably. "It wasn't stealing, Liam. It was managing the assets. We intended to use it for Chloe's future, and for your benefit too, eventually. We just thought it was better to have it under our control." "My benefit?" Liam scoffed. "You never gave me a dime of that money. You spent it all on Chloe's failed businesses and her lavish lifestyle." Margaret, who had quietly entered the study, now spoke up, her voice defensive. "Liam, don't be dramatic. We are your parents. We know what's best. Chloe needed that money. You were doing fine. I was doing fine because I worked my ass off." Liam roared, finally losing his composure. "And that money was meant for me. For Chloe. Not for you to funnel into her endless black hole of debt." Arthur, regaining some of his lawyerly composure, held up a hand. "Liam, calm down. This is a family matter. We can discuss this rationally. We still have some of the funds. We can give you a portion." "A portion?" Liam laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. "You think you can just give me a portion of what was rightfully mine? After you lied, cheated, and stole." He looked at his parents, seeing them not as the loving figures they pretended to be, but as conniving, selfish individuals who would stop at nothing to indulge their golden child. The image of his kind, honest grandparents flashed in his mind, and a wave of profound sadness washed over him. "You know what? Keep it," Liam said, his voice now dangerously quiet. "Keep every single penny. But know this, you just lost a son. And Chloe? She just lost a brother." He turned and walked out of the study, out of the house, and out of their lives. That night, he packed a bag, left a note for his parents saying he was moving out, and never looked back. He rented a small apartment, cut off all contact, and focused on his career. He vowed that he would never again allow himself to be manipulated or taken advantage of by his family. This incident, years before the Condo betrayal, had been the first major crack in Liam's relationship with his parents. It had taught him a harsh lesson about trust and the true nature of his family. It had also fueled his determination to build a life entirely independent of them, a life where his success was his own and his peace was paramount. The years passed. Liam built his career, bought his condo, and eventually, after the dramatic Christmas Eve confrontation, severed all ties with his family. He found a new sense of peace and freedom, but the scars of betrayal ran deep, Chloe, meanwhile, continued her chaotic existence. Without Liam's parents' constant financial bailouts, her financial situation became increasingly precarious. Her lifestyle consulting business never took off, and she cycled through a series of temporary jobs, always complaining about how unfair life was. Arthur and Margaret, having lost Liam, clung even tighter to Chloe. They continued to support her financially, albeit with less enthusiasm now that their own retirement savings had taken a hit from the condo debacle. They were constantly worried about her, constantly trying to fix her problems, and constantly blaming Liam for abandoning them. One day, about 5 years after Liam had cut ties, he received an unexpected email. It was from Marcus, his real estate attorney friend. The subject line read, "You might want to see this." Attached was a scanned copy of a legal document, a letter from a law firm in Miami, Florida, addressed to Arthur and Margaret Harper. The letter was a formal notification regarding the estate of their late Uncle Robert Harper, Arthur's older brother. Liam had almost forgotten about Uncle Robert. He was Arthur's eccentric older brother, a reclusive but brilliant investor who had made a fortune in the stock market. He had never married, had no children, and had always been a bit of an enigma to the family. He lived in a sprawling mansion in Miami, surrounded by rare books and art, and rarely communicated with anyone. The letter stated that Uncle Robert had passed away 6 months prior. His will had recently been probated, and the law firm was now distributing his estate. The total value of the estate was a staggering $20 million. Liam continued reading, his heart pounding. He knew his parents had always hoped for a significant inheritance from Uncle Robert, especially after their financial setbacks with Chloe. This could be their chance to finally get back on track. Then he saw the next paragraph. It stated that Uncle Robert's will explicitly disinherited Arthur Harper and Margaret Harper and their daughter, Chloe Harper. The will cited a pattern of manipulative and self-serving behavior and a blatant disregard for the well-being of my nephew, Liam Harper, who has consistently been treated as an outcast and a scapegoat by his immediate family. Liam gasped. Uncle Robert had known. He had seen it all. He had been watching silently for years, but the letter didn't stop there. The will then stipulated that the entire $20 million estate, after taxes and administrative fees, was to be placed into a charitable foundation in Liam Harper's name, to be managed by Liam Harper himself. The foundation's mission was to provide scholarships for underprivileged students pursuing careers in STEM fields and to support organizations dedicated to helping young professionals establish independent lives. Liam burst out laughing. A loud, joyous, uninhibited laugh that echoed through his empty loft. He laughed until tears streamed down his face. It was the most beautiful, most satisfying piece of paper he had ever seen. He called Marcus immediately. You saw it, didn't you? Marcus said, his voice full of amusement. I saw it, Liam managed to say, still chuckling. Uncle Robert was a genius. A true legend. He certainly was, Marcus agreed. He had been quietly funding a private investigator for years, keeping tabs on your family. He knew everything. He even had copies of the court documents from your condo situation. So, my parents, they know about this? Liam asked, a mischievous grin spreading across his face. Oh, they know, Marcus said. The letter was sent to them directly. I heard Arthur tried to contest the will, claiming undue influence, but Uncle Robert had anticipated that. He had a video recording of himself, made just weeks before his death, explaining his decision in detail. He even mentioned your condo. Said he was disgusted by their actions. And Chloe? Liam asked. Chloe is apparently having a meltdown, Marcus reported. She thought she was finally going to get her big break. Arthur and Margaret had already started planning how they would use the inheritance to fund her next business venture. Liam leaned back in his chair, a profound sense of peace washing over him. It wasn't about the money, not really. It was about the validation. It was about knowing that someone, somewhere, had seen the truth. Someone had understood his struggle. And someone had delivered the ultimate justice. He spent the next few months setting up the Liam Harper Foundation. He hired a small, dedicated team, and together they began to make a real difference in the lives of young people. He found immense satisfaction in helping others achieve the independence and success he had fought so hard for. He never heard directly from his parents or Chloe again. Their attempts to contact him were met with silence. He had built his wall, and it was impenetrable. He occasionally saw articles in the local Chicago papers about the Harper family's financial struggles and Chloe's latest failed endeavors. He felt no joy in their misfortune, but he felt no guilt either. He had simply chosen to protect his peace. Years later, Liam was giving a speech at a scholarship gala for the Liam Harper Foundation. He spoke about his journey, about the importance of resilience, and about the unexpected kindness that can change a life. He didn't mention his family by name, but everyone in the room understood the unspoken context. After the speech, a young woman approached him, her eyes shining with gratitude. "Mr. Harper," she said, "I just wanted to thank you. Your scholarship allowed me to pursue my dream of becoming an architect. I wouldn't be here without you." Liam smiled, a genuine, heartfelt smile. He looked at the young woman, full of hope and potential, and saw a reflection of his younger self. He had not only built his own life, but he was now helping others build theirs. And in that moment, Liam Harper knew that true wealth wasn't measured in dollars, but in the lives you touched, and the peace you found within yourself. He had finally found his own kind of family, a family built not on blood, but on shared values, mutual respect, and the quiet understanding that some battles are best fought by simply walking away and letting karma do the rest.